Hi everyone, Kevin here. Welcome to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we got a little project on the go here. We're going to service up our Kubota tractor. So let's get started. So this here's our little Kubota tractor. The model is B3030. It's a 2010. I've already gone ahead and taken the loader off. Pretty easy to do because we're going to be servicing this. It's due for its 300-hour service, which thankfully is not really that much. Grease it up, change the oil and filter, and service up the fuel filter. They want you to clean it, but we'll just go ahead and change it. It's easier. So a little bit about this. It's 30 horsepower, four-wheel drive, hydrostatic drive. It's got a 60-inch belly mower underneath it. A couple of extras we've added to it. It's got a rear remote. We put some LED work lights on the back of it. I've changed all the lights, including the dash lighting, to LED. I put LED bulbs in the headlights here, which they're pretty dim. So we've got another job we're going to do today. I've got a 12-inch LED light bar we're going to put here on the grill guard. I operate this thing on the road occasionally, so it's got a rear view mirror on it. I put a fire extinguisher on it. That's about it. It's pretty much the way I got it. I made a hydraulic top link for it. I've got another video posted on here about how I went about that. If you haven't seen it, you could go ahead and watch that. It's just a hydraulic cylinder, and I welded the ends to it, put the pilot operated double check valve on it. Works like a charm. We're also going to, today while we're at it, put new blades on the mower deck because they've never been changed. They're the original ones, and I imagine they're pretty beat up. The engine is a V1505 Kubota 4-cylinder diesel engine. Runs like a top, lots of power, easy on fuel, always starts. This has really been a great machine. Anyway, let's get to work. First thing I'm going to do is take the grill on the hood sides off. It comes off easy. You just undo these two thumb screw here. The grill lifts out. The hood sides pop off. That way we can kind of get at the engine just to give it a good check over, make sure clamps and stuff are tight. We'll also clean the radiator screen. I'll probably clean the primary air filter, check the coolant. You know, this thing has never had new coolant put in it. That may be something I do today. I may switch out the coolant. And that's it. I guess we'll get to work. Okay, so the hood sides are off. You can see it gives you a little better access at stuff like the oil filter that we'll be changing. What else do we see here? Oil pressure switch. That's a block heater. That was an accessory I had added on when I bought it. There's a horn. That's another thing that I added to this machine. My B3030 came from the factory with a horn, but this one I had to add it. Over on this side, you can see there's our fuel filter. We'll be changing that. There's the injection pump, water pump, the air cleaner. I think I'm gonna remove the mower deck from the machine. It just makes it easier to get at the underneath. It comes off relatively easy. Although I haven't taken it off for a long time, I'll have to get the book out to remember how to do it. But I do know it comes out pretty easily. Alright, that only took a minute. It's all unhooked, ready to pull the deck out. I just went ahead and marked on the floor where those two wheels got to land, so we'll at least have half a chance of getting it back in the right place when we put it back up. So now I just have to pull it out this way. We can start working on the tractor. We'll work on the deck after as a separate entity. Okay, so the mower's out of the way. We're underneath it now. You can see the oil pan. It's got a dual sump because of the tube for the front drive shaft going through the middle of it. So we've got two drain plugs to pull out. And of course, because of the loader, there's a cross member right underneath it. It's unreal. So it is a bit of a messy job, but that's okay. Luckily, there's only 4 liters of oil in this little guy. So we're going to do that first. We're going to get this thing drained out, and we'll get the plugs put back in. Then we'll change the oil filter and go from there. So, oh, look at this Porsche. Oh, nice. So, while the sump drips, I'm going to take the oil filter off and let that drip while I go in and have lunch, and then we can start putting stuff back together when I come back out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put the new oil filter on now. Always when you take an oil filter off, make sure that it doesn't leave the rubber seal behind. It happens sometimes. The seals stay behind and the new filter inadvertently gets screwed on over top of it. And as soon as you start it up, or even worse, a few miles down the road, the double seal blows out and all the oil gets pumped out of the engine. So you can see there's no double seal there. So we're going to get our new filter over here. It's a Wix. Wix makes a good filter. And we're just going to lubricate the seal here with some oil. All right. Then we'll screw it on. Sometimes the filter goes on vertically like that, and it's nice. You can kind of pre-fill it with oil, but this, you'll just end up making a big mess trying to do that. So we're going to screw it on. Pretty close to the rad hose, but it's always been like that. Never hurt anything. So, and the general rule of thumb with these is once the rubber seal contacts the engine block like that, you give it another 3/4 of a turn. That's a half. There we go. Now it's on there good and tight. It won't leak. Now we can go ahead and put the drain plugs back in and fill her up. I'm going to put the drain plugs in now. Important to note on this that the gasket is present. Somewhere along the line, taking them out, one of these little copper gaskets went missing. That's okay. I looked in my junk drawer and I found a pair of brand new ones. So we'll put those on there. They're a lot thicker than the ones that were there. They'll seal well. And we'll put the drain plugs back in and tighten them up. Now it started pouring. I guess the Ferris is getting a bath. We'll be putting 5W40 Rotella T6 synthetic in the engine. It'll be a little difficult to dump it out of this pail into the engine, so we transfer it into a smaller jug. But it's just a lot cheaper to buy the stuff in these big pails. Plus, I use this stuff in these 2 Kubotas and my pickup trucks with the Cummins engine. So I go through enough of it to justify buying and having these big pails sitting around here. The Cummins engine, I mean, it takes 12 liters. There's 20 in this pail. So I can do a Cummins, 1 Kubota, and a half another Kubota I can get out of 1 jug. So it's worth buying it this way. So this is a 5-liter jug. I looked up in the manual. It says the engine takes 4.1 liters plus the filter. So there's almost 5 liters in here. That should just about do it in one shot. So we'll fill it up, start the engine, let it run for a sec, then we'll let it settle down, and we'll recheck the oil level. Okay, we're going to crank it up now and see if the oil light goes out. That's always a good sign. You like my little blinking light? I don't know. When I first got the thing, I remember all the cars with aftermarket alarms. Back then, they always had a blinking light on the dash. So I said, hey, let's make it look like our Kubota has an alarm. So I put a blinking LED on the dash that's on when it's turned off. Don't ask me why. Just one of the silly things I do. Okay. Alrighty. Give her a little glow plug here. And she should start right up now. There goes the oil light out. run for a sec. While I'm on here, I'll see if you can see my fancy LED dash lights. Yeah, look at that. They made such a huge difference. Pretty cool, eh? But just LED bulbs, 194s. You buy them on Amazon, it's like 10 bucks for a whole pack of them. I changed out the ones in all the indicator lights too. You'll see them. Look at that, nice and bright. Okay, shut it off and we'll check the oil and make sure it says full on the dipstick. If not, I'll top it up. Next job is going to be to service the cooling system. So what we'll do here, we're going to replace the coolant. We're going to check, make sure the belt is tight. We're going to check the clamps on all these hoses. And we're going to clean the radiator screen. So the drain for the coolant is down here. Here it comes. Probably have to release the rad cap to let some air get into it. There it goes. So rather than taking the cap right out and making a gigantic mess all over my garage, I got lots of time, so I'll just let it dribble out like that. It won't take too long for it to all come out. I don't have any antifreeze anyway. I have to go buy some, so while that's draining, I can go to Canadian Tire. So the radiator screen here, it just slides down in front of the radiator, and it catches all the, you see stuff like this, chaff and grass clippings and leaves. It doesn't really get too filled up in this one because I don't really do a ton of mowing or that kind of stuff with this machine, but we'll clean this up and drop it back down in there and we'll be good to go. Cooling system's just about finished draining. I never made it to Canadian Tire yet. I took the drain plug right out to get the last little dregs out. It's pretty much empty now. I've got our radiator screen all cleaned up, so I'm going to lower that back down into position. There we go. Now, I've got a little 10mm wrench. We're just going to put it on all these hose clamps and make sure they're tight. Yeah. Yep. Just give them all a tiny little turn and make sure. All right. Good. Yeah, that one in there, we'll just have to... Oh, there, I can actually get it. Yeah, that's good. They're all tight. Well, I got my hands in there. Come on, wrench. Now my wrench is stuck in there. There we go. We'll check the belt. It's good and tight. It looks okay. It's not all cracked or nothing. That's fine. So, we can put the drain plug back in the cooling system. And once I got some antifreeze, we'll fill her back up. And we'll have to top up the overflow too. Okay, our air filter is in here. It consists of two filters. It's got a primary filter and a secondary filter, which is very, very, very fine. Very, very fine, like a stainless steel screen. The primary filter is a paper filter. It looks very similar to what you'd find in a car. So I'm going to take that out, make sure it looks okay. I'll give it a little blow, get the worst of the crap out of it, and put it back in. The book doesn't say to change it right now, just to service it. So you can see there that the inner or secondary filter, that's pretty much good for the life of the engine. This here is your primary one. It looks pretty dusty, but that's its job, to catch all the dust. So I'm just going to kind of back flush it, blow it out, and we'll put it back together. It's good to live a little longer. Also, good idea to blow the housing out. Look at the junk in there. It's amazing what these things suck up when they're running, eh? So next up is fuel filter service. We're at 400 hours, and according to the book, all I really have to do is remove it, clean the bowl, clean the element, and put it back together. So we're going to open it up and see what the element actually looks like. If I don't like what I see, I've got a brand new one here. I'll change it. But if they say it's good to keep going, I trust them. So you can definitely see there's some bits of junk in there. I see a couple of bits of crap inside. So we'll do what they say, open it up and flush it all out and put it back in. So it seems I misread the book. I was in fact supposed to change it, so we changed it. This thing is interesting. Just looking at it, you would think, geez, if I take that filter off, I'm going to empty the fuel tank. But no, it's got a little spring-loaded valve that the center of the filter pushes on. So as soon as you unscrew the filter, it seats the valve and the fuel flow stops. So that's pretty cool. And when you put the new filter on, as you screw it on, before it's tight, it opens the valve and fills the filter with fuel. So you don't have to worry about pre-filling it and screwing around, bleeding it and monkeying about. It's all kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's beautiful. So there's no fuel, no coolant in it, but I can still start it up for a sec. We're going to fire it up now and make sure that it doesn't have an airlock in the injectors or anything like that. So let's crank it up. Okay, here we go. There, you see that? There was just a little bubble of air in it. Went through. Now she's good. Perfect. I ran to the store and got some antifreeze. So I get the concentrated stuff. You can buy it pre-mixed 50-50, but it's $16 to get it this way or $17 to get it pre-mixed, and this you end up with double, right? So for $1 more, you end up with an extra gallon. So the easiest way I found to do it is dump it in a larger vessel like that, and then just fill that back up with water and dump it in and give it a shake. But we're still going to check the strength of this antifreeze with the hydrometer. Okay, I tilted the jug over a little bit so I can get a good sample. You fill it up and you turn it around. Let's see what we've got. Well, that's the specific gravity we want there. So it's good for -27, -28. That'll be all right for around here. And of course, if you want, you can put a little less water in it, and it'll be even stronger. But generally, we mix it 50-50, and I've never had a problem. Put that back. All right, now we're going to use that and this funnel and fill that up in there. We'll top up the reservoir, and that'll be another part of the job done. Okay, so radiator's filled up. The fill line is actually here, but I've only filled it to here because I filled the radiator right up, and probably when it's running, when it gets hot the first time, it should push a bunch of it out. And after it cools down, when it pulls some back, then we'll check where this level is at and we'll adjust it accordingly to get it right where it's supposed to be. But for now, it's more than safe. Pardon me, and we'll go from there. Next on the list of things to do, we have to adjust the front axle pivot, which is this guy under here. So what the manual describes is loosen the lock nut, tighten the bolt to 15 foot-pounds, and then back it out 60 degrees. So we're going to do that now and see where we end up with that, if it was out at all. Curiously, the manual doesn't say if they want this done with the weight on it or off it, so I'm assuming they want it done with the weight on it. So we're going to check here how much we actually can turn this thing before the torque wrench clicks. Well, there's 90 degrees. $180. So there you go. We got just over 180 degrees before the wrench clicked. So yes, it did have a little play in it. So I'll get a bar or something and back that off 60 degrees and we'll tighten down the lock nut and that'll be that done. Okay, next item to check, is the engine start system. So basically, the engine should not start if the operator is out of the seat, if the PTO is on, if the direction pedal is pressed either forward or back, and that should be it, I guess. Also, as part of the engine starting check, I'm going to replace this battery cable because I put a battery master switch on this, but the cable, you just can't get it quite tight on here, so I'm just going to replace this with an eyelet on each end. We'll do that first and then we'll check the actual starting circuit. Alright, we got our new battery cable installed. That's a lot better. Every now and then it wouldn't start and I'd have to get out and jiggle this cable because it had a bad connection on there. This is a good connection, and now I can still turn it off when I park it in the barn. There. So now we're going to check the starting circuit, the interlocks. Now this one will start with nobody in the seat because I've custom modified it. Anyway, let's try the PTO. PTO is on. It should not start. See? Nothing. And also, with the... Let me put the brake on. With the power pedal down, it shouldn't crank either. See? Nothing. Reverse. Nothing. So now, that's in neutral. The shuttle pedal is in neutral. The PTO is off. I'm in the chair, although it doesn't really matter. She should start. There we go. So that's working. That circuit is good. All right. Let's see what's next on the list it wants us to do. Okay, next up is greasing. And I would encourage everybody to use their manual when they go through the greasing because these things got a lot of grease fittings on them. Some of them are hidden and you may, despite your best intentions, miss them. So you go through this and it'll tell you exactly where every single one is so you make sure you hit it. So I'm going to go ahead, get on my back and do that now. And then I think next will probably be, there's a lot of stuff you just oil with a little oil can. One of these old babies. But right now we're going to do the greasing. So here's a little surprise I found. While I was greasing, I worked my way from the front to the back. And when I get to the back, all I really have to grease here on the 3-point hitch is the leveling jack. But what I noticed when I got back here was, I guess I've backed into something. And I've bent this side of the stabilizer. Look, get a better view of it from here. That's kind of mangled. So we're going to have to pull this thing off and then I'll get it in the press and straighten it out. It's not that big a job. But anyway, I'm glad I found it now. Ouch, yeah. She's a little bent. But that's okay. We're going to use the hydraulic press here to fix it. Let's see here. Let it up. This is way easier than beating and banging and heating and... Let this do the work. Whoa, went too far. Worst comes to worst, I have to get one at the Kubota dealer. It's probably only 20 or 30 bucks. That's still a little out. Man, I keep going too far. It's got a little twist to it too. Not much we can do with that. There! That's as close as damn it is to swearing. We'll put her back together and see if it like works freely. Next thing on the list, they want me to check the torque on the wheel fasteners. So according to this, it's around 140 for the rears, 160 for the rears also because there's bolts and nuts on the rears, and 57 to 67 on the front. So what we're going to do on the front is probably do them about 60, 65, and then the back we'll do the same thing. We'll pick something kind of in the middle of the range and make sure it's good. So when you're going to torque a wheel, try to get the right specification for it if at all possible. And then you're going to do it in a crisscross pattern, right? So these two, we're going to do the two nuts first because they're actually a different torque than the bolts. So we're going to do the two nuts. So you go always across, right? Like that. That's how you do it. You don't go around in a circle. On this machine, for some reason, they give you a lower torque value for the nuts than the bolts, which I find odd. Usually, stuff with nuts and studs, I kind of think you torque it more than a bolt. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just following the book, so what they say goes. So these are 140, so I'm going to do the nuts on both sides. And then I'll crank the wrench up to 160 and do the bolts. Next on the list is to check the battery terminal condition and the electrolyte level. So the original battery from this is long gone. This is a replacement, a maintenance-free battery, so we don't need to worry about the electrolyte level. But we will check the positive terminal. We were already monkeying around with this one. It's nice and clean. That one is good. It's got grease on it. There's no sense disturbing that for no reason. So we can check off the battery portion of the service. The next few things on the service list are things we've already covered. The air filter, the fan belt. It wanted me to adjust the brake pedal if the free play was out of range, but I'm happy with that. That's fine. And now it wants us to check the toe on the front wheels. So that's easy to do. I'll use my my stuff that I use for checking the toe on the race car. And we'll check the toe on this. So according to the manual, they want this thing to be towed in 3/8 of an inch. Well, that's a lot. But anyway, that's what they want. So I've got my toe plates out here. We're going to get the couple of tape measures out and measure it up. See what we got. So the manual calls for 3/8 of an inch of toe in, and I've got a 1/16 of an inch of toe out. So we're going to just give both of these tie rods a little tweak. Oh, there she goes. There. Now I'll recheck it and see what we've got. Okay, so I went just a little too far with the adjustment. They want it 3/8 towed in. I measured it. At the front I got 50 inches and at the back I got 50 and 7/16. So it's towed in 7/16, which is just a touch more than they want. So we'll take just a tiny bit of that back out and measure it again. Just that. It doesn't take much. Now we'll jiggle the steering to settle it down. Make sure that plate is good. Yep. Okay, I gotta put the phone down to measure. Well, maybe I can put it on its little stand, eh? That doesn't work. Okay, hang on. Let me find something to sit it on. This wrench, I bet. Yeah, that's pretty darn good, isn't it? Okay. So how I do this, I just jiggle that so I get 50. So I can see 50. And over there, look at that, 50 and 3/8. That's perfect. So I've got 50 at the front and 50 and 3/8 at the back. That means it's towed in 3/8 of an inch, which is exactly what the manual wants. So I can go ahead now and lock down the adjustments, and it's good to go. And the trick, you'll notice, I use 2 tape measures exactly the same. It saves me from going from front to back with the same tape measure. Now we're going to put on our light bar. It's just a cheap one. I bought it on Amazon for like 28 bucks. Good enough for what we're doing here. Look at that. It's got big heat sinks and it's fancy looking. So the idea with this is we're just going to mount it right on the grill guard here, so I can turn it on when I'm moving trailers and stuff around at night, and it'll project quite a bit of light forward. This will be good. So let me get my hardware and stuff sorted out and figure out how we're going to mount this thing on there. I think I can. It seems to have some adapters for round pipe that go with the legs, so I think I can use them in between and just mount it right onto here with hose clamps or U-bolts or muffler clamps or something of that nature. Let's see what we got. There we go. I got it mounted on the grill guard with a couple of U-bolts that I had kicking around. It would have looked a little more sleek if I'd have been able to get it to the back of this bar, but unfortunately the arc that the hood swings on when it opens and closes, it would have hit it. So I had to move it to the front of the bar. But anyway, she's going to throw a lot of light. That's the main thing. I need light. So now we're going to get it hooked up. Already on here, I've got kind of a heavy-duty auxiliary lighting circuit already, because when I got it, I wanted to put a trailer plug on the back for when I pull trailers on the road and that. So I've got here a little 4-pole trailer plug that I wired in. So what I did was the wiring in the tractor is so light, I didn't want to run additional bulbs on that wiring. So I just made a little circuit. I used the existing lighting on the vehicle or tractor to pick these 3 relays. One is parking, and the other was left, and the third is right. And that's what we've got. So I'll just take my power off this breaker here, run it in, put a switch on the dash, and we'll have our big honking light up and running. Okay, now we're going into the dash. I'm going to mount a toggle switch right here, and that'll turn our new front light on and off. So it's a bit of work to get in there and get the wires fished through, but we'll get her. Okay, so we've got a couple of wires in a piece of loom fished through the bulkhead here. It's pretty easy to get stuff through. The fuel tank is under here, and there's just a big foam seal all the way around it. So you just kind of tape it to a piece of coat hanger, push it through the foam seal, and pull it through. So now we've got our switch here, a nice quality Cole Hersey switch. So we'll drill a 1/2-inch hole in the end here, put the switch in, then I can put the dash all back together. That'll be good. Dash is all back together. Here's our little switch. I put a silicone boot on it so water doesn't go down it, because this is an outside tractor. It's got to be waterproof. Alright, it's mounted. Got the wires run all along here nicely along the frame. They go up there, up to here. It's grounded there. Now I should be able to turn the battery on, and let's see if it works. Oh, the hazard lights are on. Whoa, look at that. Yeah. Pretty cool, eh? We'll be able to see at night now when we're moving trailers around. Okay, so it's hooked up directly to the battery. Doesn't go off with the ignition. That's fine. All right. One thing that I forgot to describe that was part of the service procedure, anyway, is checking the fluid levels in the transmission and the front axle. So basically, you've got the front axle has a separate fluid reservoir, and you can see there's lots of fluid in it. And the rear axle is back here. So this is for the hydraulic lift, the transmission, and the rear differential. It all shares a common reservoir, and it's fine too. Alright, so that was a good amount of work, and so a few parts we put into this baby. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over by the house. I'm going to power wash it all nice before I put the body back on it. Stuff like this. It's just, over the years, hydraulic fluid, it just creeps out of everywhere. And there's dust and dirt and grime. We'll get her all cleaned up so she looks like new. And then I'll put the body back on it. I'll clean the body panels too. Put them back on. And then we can service up the mower, change the blades, put the mower back on, and this thing will be ready to be... It'll be ready to be put back to work. Well, she's all cleaned up now. I'm just going to let it sit in here and dry. Next, we're going to attack this mower deck, and I still have to grease up the loader and put it back on. So there's still another good amount of work to do on this, but we're gaining on it. I just gave the hood sides and the grill a nice wash. We're waiting for them to dry to put them on. Next thing we're going to do in our service is we're going to move on to the loader, which is outside here. There's not really much to servicing the loader. We just go ahead and hit all the grease points and inspect the hydraulic hoses for leaks. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll grease it up, check all our hydraulic hoses, and then I'll put it back on the tractor. And we're going to use the forklift here to lift up the mower deck to make it easier to service it. Now we're going to put the loader back on. It's pretty easy. I should have showed you taking it off. We'll do that when we service the other one. So you just run it in. Go away, touch. Lock down the brake. The hoses are all color coded. Yellow to yellow. Red. White. Blue. Okay, once they're all on, we're going to tip the loader up. And you'll see the uprights of the loader go in, just like that. Then we can hop off. Pins in. They're stored there. Oh, we got this one tangled up with a hose. Here we go. Just like that. Now we can lift it up. Curl it back. Now all we got to do is put the storage legs back up. Some of them are a little bit different, but they all follow the same concept. There we go. Our loader's back on. Now I can start working on the mower. We'll just put this down. We'll leave the tractor out here for now while I start working on the mower. Servicing the mower is not overly complicated. It's basically the same as what we did on the Ferris. We're going to hit all our lubrication points. We're going to check for loose bearings. We're going to lube up the drive shaft. We're going to lube up these wheels. And then the last thing we're going to do, we're going to lift it up and we're going to clean the underneath of it and change the blades. We also have to check the oil level in the gearbox. So first thing we got to do is pop these covers off. Alright, so the belt looks good, no cuts, cracks, turns nice, you can feel that. So this will be a pretty easy job. We're going to go ahead and check the fluid level in the gearbox. Where the heck is the fill plug? Oh, these here. So this here will be your drain, and that's your fill level. So we're going to pull this one out, and we should see our oil level there. So here's what you want to see on your gearbox. We're going to pull the plug out, and we're going to look for the lube to come out. That'll tell us it's full. And we're going to kind of have a look at the condition of it, right? Beautiful. See that? Some came out, and it's nice and clear looking. So we're good here. We're just going to put that back in. Tighten it up, and the gearbox is good. Now we're going to go with the grease gun and hit all our grease fittings. You'll also find doing this stuff that the more grease guns you have, the better off you are. Different configurations with different ends for reaching in all kinds of different places. It's pretty hard to have one grease gun that does everything. So right here I've got 5. And I used 3 of them just on this mower deck. Crazy, eh? Got our deck all cleaned up. The blades, they're not completely destroyed, but they've definitely seen better days. So we're going to go ahead and put a nice new set of gator mulching blades on it. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that now. Alright, got that done. Put our new set of blades on there. Now I'm going to lower the thing onto the ground, put the belt covers back on it, and get the deck back on the machine, and then I can go ahead and do some test mowing and make sure it's all working correctly before we put it away. Just when I thought I was done, I went to put the deck back on and realized all the parts for adjusting the rear anti-scalp wheel are gone. You can see here the bracket for the adjuster is broken right off the the bogie. I don't know where it is. I've never seen it when I was out wandering around. Could be in the bush back there. It could be anywhere. So I'm gonna have to go over to the Kubota dealer and order all those parts. Wow. Huh. That's how she goes. So when we compare the new parts to the old, you can see this tab here has been busted off there, and it's taken this with it. This is what latches the gauge wheel at the right height. So somewhere around this place, this and this are laying in the weeds. Who knows where? Maybe one day I'll find it. But anyway, doesn't look like it's too miserable of a job. So we'll go ahead and start changing that now. That's all back together now. So now we can adjust the height of our gauge wheel. Last part of the job is to just pull the axle out, put the gauge wheels onto there, and then we're all done. We can put the deck back on the machine. Okay, we're all set now. Last thing I got to do is set the mower height. I have no idea what it's set at now, but my Ferris is set at 3 1/4 inches, and sometimes if the grass is tall and wet, I'll lift it up to 3 1/2. So we're going to set this one at 3 1/2 to match. So basically what you do is unlike the Ferris where the deck is suspended from the chassis on chains, this deck runs along on the ground. So you have to follow this diagram here, and there's different holes and places to set the wheels on this thing. So we're going to go ahead and do what we got to do, follow this, and set it to 3 1/2 inches, and then we can put the deck back under the machine and we'll be good to go. Alrighty, all back together now. Before I put the loader back on, I got 2 things to do. I got to go see if this thing mows nice, and then I got to come back and fix my soft tire on the other side, the left front. So let's go mow some grass. So we're going to give the barnyard a fast mow. We got to make sure that this is set for the front PTO. It'll run the rear independent, front independent, or both simultaneously. We want just the front PTO. This will engage it. There she goes. Now we'll drop the deck. Bring the RPMs up. Let's mow. I don't think I'm going to cut too much right now because I've got this deck actually lifted a little higher than the deck I mow with, but if anything we'll bust up these quads that got left behind. Well, there's a couple of honkers. They're gathering up, getting ready to head south. Alright, I'll see you when I'm done. Okay, so we gave her a nice test drive on the lawn here. Came out pretty nice. Didn't really mow anything, but there was a lot of clods and clumps left over from the last time we mowed, and it took care of those. It's beautiful. I thought I was going to have to get the lawn sweeper out, but it's all gone now. So that's good. I'm going to lift the deck up, lock it back up in the up position. It's good to go. I could certainly say I'd rather mow with my Ferris, but this still does a pretty good job. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to fix that tire, and then we'll put the loader back on and we can put her away. So I decided to put the loader back on first and use the cheater way to lift up the front of it to get the tire off. We're going to take it over to the tire machine and see if we can get the tube out of it and try and figure out what's going on with it. Okay, so here's what I've found. I do remember this is a 23 by 850 by 14 tire. It's kind of like a really low profile car, like a 245/50 14, something like that. And you go to get a tube for it, and they give you a 14/15 inner tube. So what happens is, I mean, maybe next time I got to try a 13-inch inner tube and stretch it around the 14-inch wheel, because this thing, it's just when you inflate it, it's kind of crinkled up in there. And you can see here, it's cracking and stressing around where it's crinkled. And I kind of think that's what's happening to it. I don't really hear any air coming out of it, but we're going to stick a new tube in there anyway. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the tire right off the wheel and make sure there's nothing in there that's going to stick the inner tube or cause it to wear through. She's all back together now. It seems to be holding air. We'll keep an eye on it because sometimes, even though you think you've blown it up, air gets trapped between the tube and the tire, and it takes it a while to seep out around the valve stem and whatnot. And after a couple of days, the tire will look a little bit mushy. Doesn't necessarily mean that the tube is leaking. You just gotta top it up, and then it's good to go again. So we're gonna put her in service and see what happens. The last thing I wanted to do was put these brackets on for my quick hitch. Now, problem is, I just realized the brackets are not compatible with a mid-mount mower. But I will hang on to them because in case I ever did need this to have the quick hitch on it, all I got to do is remove the mower deck, and I can simply bolt these brackets on and take them back off when I'm finished. It's easy peasy. I just like knowing that I've got my ass covered, because when I got to clean snow, man, I got to clean snow. I can't wait till tomorrow. It gets deep and heavy around here in the wintertime, and I like to keep on top of it. So that's case closed on our 300-hour service and repairs on our Kubota B3030. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to tune in next time on Claremont Classic Garage. Who knows what we'll be doing. I do have coming up, we have to do a 400-hour service on our Kubota B3030 snowblower tractor, and there's some repairs we have to do to it also. I'm just starting to gather up the parts for that. Anyway, as usual, down below there, leave a comment if you want. Please subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button. Share it if you'd like to. And be sure to like our page on Facebook, the Claremont Classic Garage. Anyway, until next time, thanks so much for tuning into the Claremont Classic Garage. This is Kevin checking out. So long.